Hello everyone, Qiqi will be one of 7 older characters getting buffed with the release of Genshin patch Luna 8, complementing the simultaneous introduction of Sandrone and the new Stellar Conduct reaction in preparation for snezhnaya. Aside from being a comfy healer at the start of the game, making her seem strong in 1.0, Qiqi has otherwise been considered one of the worst characters in Genshin during its entire lifespan, but with the new buffs, Qiqi is actually looking to be a useful and strong support for the new Stellar Conduct teams. So in this brief guide, I'll be covering everything you need to know about the newly buffed Qiqi, including what kit upgrade she received, the best ways to build her, her potential best teams, and how strong she looks in the meta both currently and in the future with Sneznya's release. The new Stellar Conduct reaction is a core part of the character buffs. I will show a quick summary of everything that is involved with the new reaction here, but the main thing I want to emphasize in relation to the character buffs is that for everyone other than Mizuki, the majority of the new character buffs are only enabled when they are in the Radiant Stellar Conduct state, which requires you to be in a Polestar field created by triggering Stellar Conduct. And on the patch the buffs are being introduced, the only character that can enable Stellar Conduct for the team is Sandrone. Thus, in patch Luna 8, you must have Sandrone on the team in order to access the majority of the character buffs for the older units. But in the future, there will be new characters that you can use, potentially including Cryo Traveler, that can enable the use of Stellar Conduct. Now, let's go over what buffs Qiqi received. With her original kit, Qiqi's skill provided periodic healing without generating any energy particles, and her burst also provided more healing when attacking enemies that were hit by it. Because healing is pretty much all that she did, she wasn't very good. But with the new buffs, she is a lot more useful for specifically Stellar Conduct teams. Mainly, her skill does a lot more. Its cooldown is now permanently reduced by 15 seconds, making it have a 15-second cooldown instead of 30 seconds. In addition, her skill now fires coordinated attacks when the active character hits enemies, allowing Qiqi to provide off-field cryo application. And because of this, you no longer have to hug the enemy to get off-field cryo application from Qiqi. Also, while in the Polestar field, when her skill is active, the team's Super Conduct and Stellar Conduct reaction damage will be increased by 50%. And lastly, her skill finally generates cryo particles, which is very helpful for the team. Aside from that, for Qiqi's burst, when it's used while in the Polestar field, it will deal additional direct Stellar Conduct damage. Qiqi's A4 passive also got a buff when Radiant Stellar Conduct is active to give it more healing uptime. But you're generally not using Qiqi's normal charge attacks anyway, so this passive isn't really that relevant. Talent leveling priority is the same as before, prioritize skill, then burst mainly for healing, but because both talents are really just for healing, you don't really need to level them that much, or even at all if you don't need any more healing. Qiqi's Constellations also got some buffs. C1 now gives additional energy to Qiqi whenever her skill hits enemies when Radiant Stellar Conduct is active. C2 now additionally gives Qiqi 50% attack while in the Polestar field. C4 now gives her burst effect more healing to the lowest HP teammate, and with C6, Qiqi's burst gives the team 4 quill buffs that will increase the Stellar Conduct damage from her teammates, scaling with Qiqi's attack. Ultimately, C6 is really the only significant constellation for Stellar Conduct teams, as the additional quill buffs to Stellar Conduct damage do give a solid team DPS increase. For Qiqi's best build options, for weapon choices, you can technically use any weapons that give attack and or ER, such as the Quill of Avonia, Skyward Blade, or the Fontaine Craftable Sword. However, there is only one recommended weapon you should really be using on Qiqi, and that is Favonia's Sword. Not because Qiqi herself needs the energy, but because of the extra energy particles the weapon provides for the team. Teammates like Sandrone and Sino want to use their burst every rotation, and the extra particles from Favonia's Sword helps lower their energy requirements. For artifacts, because Qiqi's skill now has consistent off-field cryo application, she's an excellent user of 4-piece Tenacity of the Millilith for the team attack buff. In the case where another character on the team is holding 4-piece Tenacity of the Millilith, Qiqi can use 4-piece Noblesse only if you plan to use her burst every rotation, which currently only looks worth doing if she's C6. Lastly, if there is a Stellar related support set releasing in snezhnaya that Qiqi can take advantage of, she could be a holder of it depending on the team. For artifact stats, you want attack % Hourglass, attack % Goblet, then crit rate Circlet for Favonia's Sword procs. If you really need the additional healing, then you can consider healing bonus Circlet, but I personally don't think you'll need it. And if you specifically have C6 Qiqi, you should consider using attack Circlet instead to maximize her C6 quill buffs. For substats, you can just focus on crit and attack. It isn't recommended to use Qiqi's burst every rotation unless she's C6, and with C1's extra energy and Favonia's Sword, Qiqi's ER requirements solve itself. Lastly, for Qiqi's new best teams, the new buffs make her a great off-field cryo support for Stellar Conduct teams, as she provides damage buffs, off-field cryo application, and healing. As a result, she is currently one of the best cryo support options for a Sandrone team, for instance. She can serve as the primary off-field cryo support, or being a second one pairing with Escoffier. At C6, Qiqi currently looks like the best option, and even if she's not, she's still one of the best options in patch Luna 8. For patch Luna 8 Stellar Conduct Sino teams, Qiqi is the best overall choice for an off-field cross support, since she's also a sustain option for Sino. For Stellar Conduct Risley teams however, due to how his enhanced attacks are tied to draining his HP and himself restoring it with his charge attacks, he doesn't want a healer like Qiqi on his team. Now when new Stellar related characters are released, there is a good chance that Qiqi gets replaced, however she will likely remain a solid alternative support choice for if you don't get the new supports, and her healing may still prove useful for teams. Overall, I think Qiqi did get one of the strongest buffs from the cast of 7 older characters. When you consider Qiqi was just not a useful character at all, the fact that Qiqi is now looking to be strong and one of the best choices for Stellar Conduct teams at the moment is a massive glow up for her as a character. She no longer just heals, but she provides off-field cryo application, actually produces energy particles with her skill, and gives buffs to Stellar Conduct teams. I do think that Qiqi is likely getting replaced in Stellar Conduct teams when newer and stronger Stellar related supports eventually release in snezhnaya, but because she can still act as an alternative support choice, is a comfy healer, and is much better than before, I do still think she's one of the better buffed characters, and it's great to see she's finally getting a niche where she's a useful character to use. That's everything I wanted to cover about the newly buffed Qiqi. If you enjoyed this quick and concise guide, consider liking the video or sub to the channel so you don't miss out on similar guide videos in the future. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments, and with that, I hope you all have a wonderful day.